What's up, DFF Army, and welcome to a brand new series here on the DFF YouTube channel. So for those of you who don't know, I am part of the DFF Rankings team, and my goal with this series is to bring you guys a closer look into our member-exclusive DFF consensus rankings. You can find the full rankings on our website over at dynastyfootballfactory.com. By purchasing an annual membership, you'll get access to all the member-exclusive content that we make, a team full of content creators and editors via the DFF Discord, and of course, you'll get access to the centerpiece of this series, which is going to be the DFF AccuRankings. We also have extremely deep and comprehensive Devy rankings as well, which I can personally attest are super hard to come by online. I won't give this spiel really in further episodes of this series, but I really do urge you to give some consideration to the best deal in fantasy football content right now. With that out of the way, let's get into the nitty-gritty of today's episode, where I'm going to give you guys a quick intro on how the rankings work, and then also give you guys a look at who some of our DFF my guys sort of are, guys who were higher on than consensus. The DFF AccuRankings appear on our website as an aggregate ranking of over 300 quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, and tight ends. I, alongside 4 of my colleagues over at DFF, keep our own individual rankings, and we're constantly adjusting them as we get more information, as we do more research, as we do more film study, which are then used to create the aggregate that you see on the DFF website. Our ranking updates usually go live about twice a month. This series is going to focus on 2 main aspects of our rankings. First is going to be sort of just a stock up, stock down report, which I'll try to do about twice a month whenever the ranking updates go live. Secondly, I'll be doing my best to highlight guys who are much higher in our AccuRankings than their perceived market value is. To do this, I'll be using the very dreaded Keep Trade Cut, which albeit is not a perfect resource, but sort of fits the bill of what I'm looking for here based on its crowdsourcing nature. I'll spend this first episode here giving you guys sort of an intro into DFF's consensus my guys. Kicking off the DFF guys is going to be none other than Deshaun Watson, who we have ranked over at DFF as the QB9 and the number 12 overall asset in Dynasty, which is compared to his Keep Trade Cut ranking of QB11 and the number 29 overall asset. If you're an avid fan of DFF's Factory Tour, also available on the YouTube channel hosted by my good friend Paul Patterson, you'll know that I've had some struggles coming around to Watson as a really elite QB1 in Dynasty. However, I've recently come to terms with him as an early first, late second startup pick, which is sort of reflected in my personal ranking of him at the number 15 overall asset. Watson currently sits behind the likes of Jackson Smith and Jigba, Bryce Young, Devontae Smith, T. Higgins, Tyreek Hill, which I think is kind of just absolutely ridiculous, to be quite frank. What it really boils down to, though, is that people seem to be forgetting just how good Deshaun Watson really is. His QB1 ceiling is not just like a projection or a perceived valuation. It's actually his track record of 3 straight top 5 QB finishes last time we saw him playing full seasons. This is a guy who is going toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes in playoff games and leading mostly terrible Texans teams to the most success they've had in years. Watson has all the tools we look for in an elite quarterback. He's got a great arm. He's accurate. He can process well. He can run. He was genuinely a top 5 quarterback in the NFL just 2 years ago. All that is to say, Deshaun Watson did look straight up terrible last season. He was holding onto the ball longer than anyone else in the NFL. He looked skittish in the pocket. He was inaccurate on what should have been quick and easy throws. And it's safe to say that the rust was definitely apparent with him. I'll attribute most of this to time spent away from the game, which is almost 2 full seasons worth for him. But it's hard to not be scared about Watson being just that bad the last time we saw him. However, it was always expected that Watson would need some time to get back up to speed, and now with a revamped core of weapons, I feel much better about Watson's prospects as a fantasy asset going into 2023. I do think that he does have that borderline QB1 upside that some of us think he might. Similarly to Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott and Kyler Murray are being criminally undervalued by the market currently. Prescott's DFF rank sits at QB 11 and number 17 overall, while his Keep Trade Cut value has him at QB 15 and 39th overall. As for Kyler, his DFF rank is the QB 10 and number 14 overall asset, while his Keep Trade Cut value is currently QB 12 and 32 overall. I'm not going to go too in-depth on these two, as the logic is pretty much the same as Watson, but all 3 of these guys are screaming values, and you should be scooping them up in every startup that you can at their current ADP, and you should be acquiring them on all of your rosters based on this trade market value. The next guy I want to highlight in this video is going to be Mark Andrews, who we have ranked as the tight end 1 and 15th overall asset versus his Keep Trade Cut ranking of tight end 2 and number 32 overall asset. It is important to note that our rankings are tight end premium, whereas Keep Trade Cut is standard scoring in that regard. However, Andrews is still one of our favorite values in startup drafts and just in general. I've scooped him up in a recent tight end premium league in the 3rd round, so he's definitely available at his Keep Trade Cut ranking. And and this is just way off compared to where he should be going. My stance on Andrews boils down to a few things. First is his track record of production, which includes 4 straight top 6 tight end finishes. He's the only tight end not named Travis Kelce in the past 7 years to record a tight end 1 finish. Number 2 is his projected role in this Baltimore offense, which, as many people know, I'm all in on in 2023. The arrival of Todd Monken brings promise of a huge uptick in passing, and I think Lamar Jackson is going to be an MVP frontrunner next year. And while the Ravens have made significant additions to their receiver room, most of those weapons are going to serve more as complementary pieces, and they're sort of field stretchers, whereas Andrews is going to really be the true number 1 target in this offense. Monken's previous offense at Georgia featured Brock Bowers heavily, and there's no reason to think that he's going to avoid using Andrews in a similar method. Andrews has shown the ability to get open constantly and be dynamic as a receiver after the catch. I think he's in line for a ton of volume next year, and I love him at cost right now. I think that he's primed to be a potential tight end 1 this season, and if someone not named Travis Kelce is going to do it, odds are it'll be Mark Andrews. The last guy I want to highlight today is going to be Diontae Johnson, who sits at our wide receiver 22 and number 55 overall on the DFF AccuRankings, which is compared to his Keep Trade Cut ranking of wide receiver 34 and 74th overall asset. I've even found Johnson to be available even later than this in startups. I recently scooped him up in the back of the 8th in a startup, which is just absurd value to strike in my opinion. People really seem to be forgetting just how good Diontae Johnson is at football. I think he's one of the best route runners in the entire NFL. He's an incredibly smooth mover, but he's also incredibly sudden and abrupt in his breaks. He constantly gets open as good as anyone else in the league. As for his struggles with drops, I think those are completely overblown. He dropped from 13 drops in 2020 to 5 in 2021. I won't make the argument that he's an incredibly reliable receiver, but his hands are actually very good, and every season he makes a few bids for catch of the year, like the picture you're seeing in the slide next to me. Diontae was the wide receiver 8 in fantasy just 1 full season ago, posting over 100 receptions for over 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. Now, with a full offseason under his belt to develop rapport with Kenny Pickett, if even a smidgen of that Diontae comes back next year, you're in for a crazy value at his current startup ADP and trade market value. This is a guy you can go out and buy for a mid-2024 second, and I'd be doing it without hesitation. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thanks so much for joining me on a little sneak peek of our DFF AccuRankings. Remember to like this video and subscribe to the DFF YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of the awesome content we've been pumping out recently. And head over to dynastyfootballfactory.com to get yourself access to the full version of the ranking, as well as access to the DFF Discord, where myself and a platoon of other DFF content creators are available to answer any of your fantasy related questions. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week where I'll be giving you my first stock up, stock down update of the DFF AccuRankings.